You know, and a teacher asks you, what do you want to be when you grow up? You know, little kids say, I want to be a policeman, I want to be a fireman, I want to be a cowboy, I want to be a football player, I want to be a, you know, TV, radio, newscaster, I want to be a weatherman. Or, you know, you had this dream, right? Nobody ever said, I want to grow up and be an inmate. I want to grow up and be a junkie. I want to grow up and be a prostitute. Nobody ever said that. One of the saddest times of our life, Debbie and I were in a youth prison in Texas. I'll never forget this. We were eating lunch with the kids. These were little kids, about 8 to 14, 15 years old. And there was a youth prison. And this little boy across from her, was he like 8 or 10? And she was sitting right across from me, and she said, what do you want to be when you grow up? And he said, ma'am, it wouldn't be appropriate for me to tell you what I want to be when I grow up. Because he'd been mentored by his peers and by people older than him, and he wanted to be a gangster, you know, or he wanted to be a pimp or whatever. I don't know what he wanted to be. But if we could see the result before we did it, we wouldn't do it. We know that the wages of sin is death. It says in Romans 6:23. But it seems hard at the time to believe that it applies to us. When we sin, the wages of sin is death. But it seems hard to imagine that that could apply to us. There's a voice that encourages us to believe that no one will be hurt or know what we're considering. That's where the fear of the Lord comes in. A cream puff instead of a rattlesnake. See, a cream puff's got about 25 grams of sugar in it. That's about the equal that you should have in a whole day. And it's sitting there and it looks harmless. You know it's not good for you, but you think one can't hurt. So you eat it. But if it was a rattlesnake laying there, you wouldn't consider picking it up. Because you know it's got enough poison in it to paralyze your central nervous system or maybe even kill you. So you wouldn't even consider picking it up. Here's the point. Satan will seldom tempt us to do something we know is as deadly as a rattlesnake bite. But he will tempt us every day to choose sins that we think we can commit without consequence. We can confess our sins after we commit them and claim his forgiving grace. 1 John 1:9. However, the damage done to others and the world by our sins remains. And we forever lose the reward that will be ours for faithful obedience. The next time you're tempted, remember that the Lord of the universe knows everything, and he's watching you right now. Know that the cost of the sin must be worse than its benefit, or Satan would not tempt you. Now I'm going to go through some verses here pretty fast, so don't try to write them down, Cindy. I'm gonna no. If you want, you may know shorthand, or you might be a court clerk. So you just do whatever. But I'm going to go through these fairly fast, and I'm going to comment about some of them. Job 28:28 says, "And to man he said, Behold, the fear of the Lord, that is wisdom, and to depart from evil is understanding." Psalm 111:10, "The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. A good understanding have all those who do his commandments. His praise endures forever." Proverbs 9:10, "The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and the knowledge of the Holy One is understanding." Proverbs 15:33, "The fear of the Lord is instruction for wisdom, and before honor comes humility." Proverbs 1:7, "The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. Fools despise wisdom and instruction." Proverbs 10:27, "The fear of the Lord prolongs life, but the years of the wicked will be shortened." When I'm preaching this in prisons, I always tell the guys, you want your life prolonged? You want to at least make parole, get out of this place, or, have a little longer, to live and serve God? Because a lot of times I'm speaking in prison chapels where a lot of inmates, let me tell you, there's some inmates that they're in more peace than we are. I'm serious. I go to death row and get ministered to usually, because those guys are just they know they have a lot of time to spend with God, and they just they get very close to Jesus, and it's a sad thing, but for some inmates it'd be best thing could happen is they never get out, because as long as they're in there, man, they're the best. They're like Billy Graham. They're wonderful Christians. But the day they hit the streets, that all changes. That's why we need so bad to love them when they come out, you know. I wrote a article about a guy named Spider that I met back in the early 80s, or mid 80s, 85, 86, somewhere in there. I don't remember exactly. Maybe a little later than that. I think it was 88. Anyway, I went into his cell. We were in a situation where we could go into their cells if they asked us. And I always wait to get invited, you know. I walk up to a cell door and say, can I come in? Come on in, you know. Sit down. You don't ever sit on the furniture, the rack or whatever, unless they invite you, because that's their house. Anyway, he said, let me show you something, Bill. And he opened this box, took a Bible out. And he said, and this guy had tattoos everywhere and had a big spider tattooed on his neck. And he said, I never opened this thing. Last time I got out of prison, I went to a church, and he said, I walked up the steps, and I had a pair of jeans on that had holes in the knees, and a t-shirt, and he said, this guy in a three-piece suit stepped out and said, you can't come in here dressed like that. And he said, I've never been back in the church since. And, you know, our inner city ministry is a little different crowd because we have people come in there. We have people coming there carrying guns that aren't supposed to be carrying guns.